I'm Heather Wilson, 29 years old, working as a nurse in the vibrant city of Seattle. My life was steady, fulfilling, and comfortably predictable until a single phone call turned my world upside down. "Miss Wilson, you're 3 months behind on your mortgage payments." The bank representative's voice crackled through the phone, cold and matter-of-fact. A mortgage? I'd never owned a home in my life. Confusion hit me like a wave. The amount they claimed I owed? A staggering $623,000. My heart sank, my stomach churned, and my mind raced. When I saw the signature on the documents, perfectly forged, but not mine, and the address tied to the loan, I froze. It was my sister Amanda's beautiful, newly purchased dream home, a place I'd admired just months before. Tonight, our family was gathering for our bi-weekly dinner, a tradition of laughter and love. But tucked inside my bag was a police report, a ticking time bomb that would change everything. If you're watching this from somewhere across the globe, I'd love to hear where you are. Drop your location in the comments below, hit that subscribe button, and stay tuned for the moment I uncovered a betrayal so profound it shattered my family forever. Before this nightmare began, I thought I had a pretty good life. It wasn't glamorous or extraordinary, but it was mine, and it was enough. For 6 years, I'd been a registered nurse in the pediatric ward at Seattle Grace Hospital. There's something deeply rewarding about helping sick children, even on the toughest days when the outcomes break your heart. My colleagues were like a second family, always there with a laugh or a shoulder to lean on. I'd earned a reputation as the reliable one, the nurse who'd pick up extra shifts without complaint, who cared deeply about her patients and her work. My apartment in Ballard was small but cozy, a one-bedroom sanctuary I'd filled with secondhand furniture and an abundance of plants. My friends teased me, calling it a greenhouse rather than a home, but those leafy companions brought me peace after long, chaotic shifts at the hospital. They were my quiet refuge, a way to ground myself in the midst of life's storms. Then there was my actual family. My parents, David and Carol Wilson, still lived in the same suburban house where my sister Amanda and I grew up. Dad had retired from his accounting job 2 years ago, settling into a quieter life, while Mom, ever the passionate educator, continued teaching 4th grade. She always said she'd retire when the kids stopped being interesting, which, knowing her, might never happen. They were good people, honest, hardworking, and fiercely devoted to their daughters. And then there was Amanda, my older sister by 3 years. Growing up, I idolized her. She was everything I wasn't: confident, charismatic, a natural achiever. While I was shy and reserved, Amanda was the homecoming queen, the valedictorian, the captain of the debate team. She made friends effortlessly, while I lingered in the background, finding my voice only after college. But there was never resentment between us, or so I thought. I was proud of her successes, grateful for the times she stood up for me against middle school bullies, her protective streak fierce and unwavering. As adults, our lives took different paths, but we stayed close. Amanda soared in the world of real estate, selling luxury properties across Seattle and building a name for herself. 5 years ago, she married Brian Parker, a financial advisor with a polished smile and a knack for networking. They were a striking couple, tall, athletic, always tanned from their frequent tropical getaways. Their social media was a curated gallery of perfection: sunset cocktails on pristine beaches, charity galas in designer outfits, matching tennis gear at exclusive clubs. I, on the other hand, remained single, pouring my energy into my nursing career and enduring the occasional disastrous blind date arranged by well-meaning coworkers. Our lives couldn't have been more different, yet we made it work. We met for coffee every few weeks, catching up on life's little details, and our family gathered twice a month for dinner at our parents' house. Amanda sometimes made subtle jabs about my modest lifestyle, suggesting investment opportunities one could never afford or hinting that I could aim higher. I brushed it off, assuming she just wanted the best for me. 8 months ago, Amanda and Brian moved from their sleek downtown condo to a stunning craftsman-style home in Queen, Anne, one of Seattle's most prestigious neighborhoods. I'll never forget the housewarming party they hosted for the family. as Amanda gave me the grand tour, pointing out custom cabinetry, Viking appliances, and breathtaking views of the city and Puget Sound. I felt a pang of envy. The house was exquisite, a testament to their success. "Someday, you'll have this too, sis," Amanda said, squeezing my shoulder with a warm smile. "You just need to aim higher." Her words stung, but I smiled back, wanting to believe she meant well. The day everything changed started like any other Tuesday. I was halfway through my shift, carefully changing the bandages for Tyler, a brave 7-year-old recovering from an appendectomy, when my phone buzzed in my pocket. I usually ignored calls during patient care, but I was waiting for an update about my elderly neighbor, who'd been hospitalized the night before. After ensuring Tyler was comfortable, I stepped into the hallway and answered. "Hello, this is Heather," I said, expecting news about my neighbor. "Miss Wilson, this is Craig Donovan from Washington Mutual Bank," a man's voice replied. "I'm calling about your missed mortgage payments. We've sent several notices, and if we don't resolve this soon, we'll have to begin foreclosure proceedings." My mind went blank. "I'm sorry, there must be some mistake," I said, my voice trembling. "I don't have a mortgage. I rent my apartment." The banker's tone shifted, taking on a hint of condescension. "Miss Wilson, according to our records, you took out a mortgage for $623,000 in January for a property on Highland Drive. You made payments for the first 3 months, but we haven't received anything since April." Highland Drive. The name hit me like a punch. That was Amanda Street, the address of her perfect new home. "This is a mistake," I insisted, my voice rising enough to draw a concerned glance from a passing nurse. "I've never purchased property. My credit isn't even good enough for a loan that size. I'm a nurse, not a surgeon." There was a long pause. "The application shows an annual income of $192,000 and a credit score of 782 at the time of approval," the banker said. "We have all the documentation, Miss Wilson, including your signature on multiple forms. Perhaps you could come into the branch to review the paperwork." The conversation stretched on, surreal and disorienting, as I agreed to visit the bank after my shift. I returned to Tyler's room on autopilot, my hands steady but my mind spinning. A clerical error? Identity theft? But the address, Amanda's address, couldn't be a coincidence. At the bank, Richard Peterson, the branch manager, laid out a thick folder of documents that made my stomach lurch with every page. Loan applications, income versioning, credit check authorizations, closing papers, all bearing what looked like my signature. And there, in black and white, was the property address, 4872 Highland Drive, Amanda's new home. Could I get copies of all of this? I asked, my voice sounding distant, as if it belonged to someone else. Richard hesitated. "Technically, these are already your copies, but given the circumstances, I can make duplicates." He studied my face, his expression softening. "Miss Wilson, if you didn't apply for this mortgage, I strongly suggest you contact the police. This appears to be identity theft and possibly fraud." I nodded, numb, as a chilling realization settled over me. This wasn't just any identity theft. My own sister, had stolen my identity to buy her dream house. The days that followed were a whirlwind of anxiety, disbelief, and relentless investigation. For the first time in 2 years, I called in sick to work, unable to focus on patient care when my own life was unraveling. My cozy apartment, once my haven, now felt like a cage where I paced endlessly, torn between rage and confusion. Could there be another explanation? Maybe Amanda had made a terrible mistake, an administrative error. Maybe my name had been used accidentally instead of hers. But as I pored over the documents Richard had copied for me, that hopeful theory crumbled. This was deliberate. Someone had meticulously forged my signature on multiple forms, provided my social security number, my birth date, my employment history, someone who knew me intimately. My first step was to call Equifax, one of the major credit bureaus. The customer service representative sounded bored until I explained the situation. Her tone shifted to practice sympathy. "Let me pull up your credit report, Miss Wilson," she said, followed by the clicking of a keyboard. Then a pause. There are several accounts here that appear to have been opened in the past year." The mortgage is the largest, but there's also a home equity line of credit for $150,000, 3 credit cards with limits between $20,000 and $30,000 each, and a personal loan for $45,000. I felt physically ill, the room spinning around me. All of these are fraudulent, I said, my voice barely above a whisper. I didn't open any of them. I understand, ma'am, she replied. I'm initiating a fraud alert on your account immediately, and I'll send you instructions for filing a formal dispute for each account. You should also contact the other credit bureaus right away. By the end of that day, I'd spoken to all 3 major credit bureaus, Equifax, Experian, and TransUnion, placed fraud alerts, and learned the full extent of the damage. My credit score, once a respectable 724, had plummeted to 546 due to missed mortgage payments and maxed out credit cards I knew nothing about. The weight of it was crushing, a betrayal so personal it felt like a physical wound. The next morning, I met with Diane Schwartz, a financial advisor recommended by a colleague. Her office was warm and inviting, with soft lighting and comfortable chairs, but nothing could ease the knot of dread in my stomach. I slid the bank documents across her desk, watching her face as she reviewed them. This is definitely identity theft, she confirmed, her tone professional but empathetic. And I have to say, it's quite sophisticated. Whoever did this knew exactly what information would be needed to pass verification checks. It was my sister, I said, the words feeling foreign as I spoke them aloud for the first time. The house is hers. She's living in it right now. Diane's expression shifted from concern to genuine shock. That complicates things, she said carefully. Family fraud is, unfortunately, more common than people realize, but it presents unique challenges, both legally and emotionally. What should you do? Legally, it's clear. You need to file a police report. Without that, the banks won't recognize you as a victim rather than a participant. But I understand if you're hesitant to potentially send a family member to jail. I was hesitant. Despite the mounting evidence, I couldn't fully process that Amanda, my protector, my role model, would do this to me. There had to be more to the story, some explanation that didn't involve such a profound betrayal. Before going to the police, I decided to gather more information. I contacted a handwriting expert named Marcus Bell, who compared the signatures on the mortgage documents to samples of my actual signature from my passport and work records. These are forgeries, he concluded after a meticulous examination. Good ones, but forgeries nonetheless. See these pressure points and the slight hesitation in the loop of the H? The forger was trying to be careful, to mimic rather than write naturally. Could you testify to that if needed? I asked, my voice steadier than I felt. Marcus nodded. I'd need to do a more formal analysis, but preliminarily, yes. Next, I turned my attention to Amanda's finances, though as her sister, I had no legal access to her records. Through social media posts and casual conversations with mutual friends, I began piecing together a troubling picture. Despite their outward appearance of wealth, Amanda and Brian had been facing financial difficulties for at least 2 years. Her real estate business had taken a hit during a market downturn, and Brian had left his previous firm under murky circumstances no one seemed willing to discuss. His new independent advisory business wasn't attracting the high-net-worth clients he'd hoped for. Yet their lifestyle hadn't adjusted to these realities. If anything, it had become more extravagant. A new boat, a membership at an exclusive country club, frequent luxury purchases. It didn't add up. The most damning evidence came from my friend Stephanie, who worked at a luxury car dealership where Amanda had purchased a new Mercedes. I probably shouldn't tell you this, Stephanie said over coffee, her voice low, but when they ran her credit for financing, it was a mess. Brian ended up paying cash, but I overheard them arguing in the parking lot. He said something like, "We can't keep doing this." The house was risky enough. The house. My house, according to the bank. I also discovered multiple credit accounts opened in my name, all linked to online statements sent to an email address that was a subtle variation of my own. heatherwilson883@gmail.com instead of my real heatherwilson1993@gmail.com. It was a clever, deliberate trick, easy to miss in verification processes, but impossible to ignore once uncovered. Each new piece of evidence felt like a stone piling onto my chest, making it harder to breathe, harder to deny the truth. My sister, whom I trusted implicitly, had stolen my identity to finance a lifestyle she couldn't afford. She'd thrown me under the bus without a moment's hesitation, leaving me to face the financial and legal fallout when her scheme inevitably collapsed. After a week of relentless investigation, I could no longer avoid the inevitable. With a heart heavy as lead, I drove to the Seattle Police Department's Financial Crimes Unit and asked to file a report for identity theft and fraud. The office was nothing like the dramatic police stations depicted on TV, no bustling chaos or gritty interrogation rooms. Instead, it was a nondescript municipal building with fluorescent lighting and outdated furniture. I sat in a hard plastic chair for nearly an hour, clutching a folder filled with the evidence I'd gathered, waiting for a detective to see me. Finally, a woman in her 40s with short brown hair and tired eyes approached. "Heather Wilson? I'm Detective Rachel Thompson. Sorry about the wait. Follow me." She led me to a small interview room with a table, 3 chairs, and a wall-mounted camera in the corner. I glanced at it nervously. "Standard procedure," she explained, noticing my look. "Helps protect both you and us. Now, I understand you're here to report identity theft." "Yes," I said, my voice smaller than I intended. "By my sister." Something flickered in Detective Thompson's expression, surprise, maybe even sympathy, before her professional demeanor snapped back into place. "I see. That's, unfortunately, more common than you might think. Tell me everything from the beginning." For the next 2 hours, I recounted the entire story. The bank's call, the mortgage I never applied for, the credit cards and loans opened in my name, the house my sister was living in, purchased with my stolen identity. Detective Thompson took detailed notes, occasionally asking clarifying questions. She seemed particularly interested in the timeline and how Amanda might have accessed my personal information. "Do you share any financial accounts? Safety deposit boxes? Has she ever lived with you as an adult?" "No to all of those," I replied. "But we're close, or I thought we were. She's been to my apartment countless times. My important documents are in a file cabinet in my home office. Not locked." I felt foolish admitting it. I never thought I needed to protect myself from my own sister. Detective Thompson's expression softened. "No one expects this from family. It's not your fault." When I finished, she leaned back in her chair. "Miss Wilson, I want to be clear. Filing this report means we will investigate fully. If the evidence supports your claims, your sister could face serious criminal charges. Identity theft and mortgage fraud are felonies. She could go to prison. Are you prepared for that?" The question hit me like a physical blow. Was I prepared to be responsible for sending Amanda to prison, for destroying her life, her marriage, her career? I thought of our childhood, how she taught me to ride a bike, helped with my homework, stood up to bullies who targeted me. I thought of our parents, who would be devastated. But then I remembered the $623,000 debt in my name, the violation of trust so profound it left me reeling. "Yes," I said finally. "I need to protect myself. If she faces consequences for what she did, that's her responsibility, not mine." Detective Thompson nodded. "I understand. This is difficult. We'll handle the investigation with discretion, but I can't promise confidentiality, especially if charges are filed. These cases become public record." "I understand," I said, my resolve hardening. She pushed a form across the table. "This is the official identity theft report. Read it carefully before signing." As I signed my name, my real signature, not the forged one on the mortgage documents, I felt a strange mix of relief and dread. The wheels of justice were now in motion, and there was no turning back. Stephanie was waiting for me in the lobby, having come for moral support at my request. I needed a friendly face after taking such a momentous step. "How did it go?" she asked, pulling me into a hug. "About as well as accusing your sister of felony fraud can go," I replied, attempting humor but hearing the tremor in my voice. "You did the right thing, Heather," she said firmly. What she did was unforgivable. We went to a nearby coffee shop, where Stephanie listened as I poured out my swirling emotions. "The detective said they'll start investigating right away," I told her. They'll contact the bank, subpoena records, maybe even interview Amanda. How do you think she'll react? I stared into my untouched latte, the steam rising in faint wisps. She'll deny it at first. Amanda's always been good at lying when cornered. Then she'll try to justify it, make it seem like she was doing me a favor or had every intention of paying everything back. Do you think she did intend to pay it back? Stephanie asked gently. I considered the question, turning it over in my mind. Maybe in some abstract way, but practically? She and Brian were already missing payments. They never had a plan beyond using my identity to get what they wanted in the moment. 2 days later, Detective Thompson called with an update. We've confirmed your suspicions, Miss Wilson. The mortgage application was submitted online using your personal information, but from an IP address traced to your sister's previous residence. We're also investigating her husband's potential involvement. Financial crimes like this are rarely committed by just one person in a household. Brian. I hadn't fully considered his role until that moment, but it made sense. As a financial advisor, he would have known exactly how to manipulate the system, maybe even orchestrated the scheme. There's more, Detective Thompson continued. We've discovered evidence suggesting they were planning to declare bankruptcy in your name once the debts became unmanageable. There are searches from their home computer about bankruptcy laws and identity abandonment. The calculated nature of their betrayal stunned me. This wasn't a desperate, spur-of-the-moment act. They'd planned to destroy my financial future while protecting their own, leaving me to drown in debt I didn't create. A week after filing the report, I received the official police documentation, a comprehensive dossier detailing the evidence against Amanda and Brian. Bank records showed transfers from accounts in my name to their personal accounts. Loan applications bore forged signatures. Credit card statements listed purchases at high-end stores and restaurants I'd never visited, in amounts I could never afford. Sitting at my kitchen table that evening, I read through each page methodically, highlighting the most incriminating sections. The police had done thorough work, building an airtight case against my sister and brother-in-law. According to Detective Thompson, the district attorney was confident about pressing charges. Tomorrow was our bi-weekly family dinner. Amanda would be there, blissfully unaware that her scheme had been uncovered. She didn't know about the foreclosure notice addressed to homeowner Heather Wilson. She didn't know I'd spent weeks investigating her. She didn't know about the police report now sitting in a manila folder on my counter. As I prepared for bed, my phone chimed with a text from my mother, looking forward to seeing my girls tomorrow. I'm making your favorite lasagna. Love you both. The casual normalcy of her message broke something in me. I cried for the first time since this nightmare began, not just for myself, but for our parents, whose world was about to shatter. In the morning, I rehearsed what I would say, determined to stay calm and dignified when I confronted Amanda. I wouldn't scream or resort to name-calling, though she deserved it. I would present the evidence and let the truth speak for itself. As I dressed for dinner, my phone rang. It was my mother. Honey, you're still coming tonight, right? Your father's already opened a bottle of wine. Yes, Mom. I'll be there at 6 o'clock, I replied, keeping my voice steady. Good. Amanda's bringing that chocolate mousse cake you love from Dahlia Bakery. Isn't that thoughtful? Thoughtful. My sister, the identity thief, buying me cake with credit cards fraudulently opened in my name. The absurdity almost made me laugh. Very thoughtful, I managed. See you soon, Mom. I tucked the police report into my bag and headed out the door, steeling myself for the confrontation that would forever alter our family. I spent nearly an hour deciding what to wear, a strange fixation given the gravity of the evening. I settled on a simple navy dress, professional, serious, not my usual casual attire for family gatherings. This was no ordinary dinner. I applied my makeup carefully, determined that Amanda wouldn't see how deeply she'd hurt me. I wouldn't give her that satisfaction. As I drove to my parents' home in Bellevue, memories flooded back, happier times that now felt like they belonged to someone else. Mom's birthday last year, when Amanda and I had surprised her with tickets to see Hamilton. Christmas 2 years ago, when Dad got tipsy on eggnog and sang carols in a hilariously operatic voice until we were all crying with laughter. Countless Sunday dinners filled with stories, advice, and gentle teasing. Tonight would be the last of those dinners, at least in the form I'd known. After tonight, nothing would be the same. I parked a block away, needing a moment to compose myself before entering. As I walked toward the house, I spotted Amanda's white Range Rover in the driveway, the same Range Rover she'd shown off 3 months ago, claiming it was a reward for closing a big property deal. Had that been a lie too? Was it purchased with fraudulent credit in my name? The familiar smell of my mother's lasagna greeted me as I approached the front door. For a fleeting moment, I considered turning around, driving home, pretending I'd fallen ill. I could confront Amanda privately, give her a chance to make things right without public humiliation. But then I remembered the bankruptcy searches Detective Thompson had mentioned. Amanda and Brian had planned to leave me financially ruined while they walked away unscathed. They deserved no mercy. I rang the doorbell, the weight of the police report in my bag feeling like a brick. My mother opened the door, beaming. At 62, Carol Wilson remained vibrant, her gray hair cut in a stylish bob, her face lined but radiant. She pulled me into a hug. "Heather, you look beautiful, but so serious. Everything okay at the hospital?" "Everything's fine, Mom," I lied, returning her hug. "Just tired from a long week." Inside, my father was in his usual spot, comfortable in his recliner with a glass of red wine. He stood to embrace me. "There's my girl. Want some wine? It's that Oregon Pinot you like." "Thanks, Dad, that would be nice," I said, forcing a smile. From the kitchen, I heard Amanda's laugh, bright, musical, as always. She appeared in the doorway, wearing an expensive-looking cream blouse and tailored pants, her blonde hair perfectly styled, her smile dazzling. "Heather, finally," she said, as if nothing was wrong. "I was telling Mom about this incredible patient success story I heard from Dr. Garner at the club. You should talk to him about potential positions in his practice. The benefits are amazing." The audacity stunned me. Here she was, having stolen my identity, offering career advice as if she had my best interests at heart. I forced a tight smile. "I'm happy where I am, thanks." If she noticed my coolness, she didn't show it. Brian's out back, helping Dad with the grill. Mom insisted on both lasagna and steaks tonight. We're going to be eating leftovers for days. My sister-in-law Jessica arrived next with my brother Mark and their 2 children. Jessica immediately commented on Amanda's house, having visited recently for a play date with the kids. "That sunroom is absolutely to die for, Amanda. The way the light comes in during the afternoon, perfect for plants. Heather, you should see it with all your green thumb knowledge. Your sister has turned it into this gorgeous reading nook." Amanda shot me a quick, almost imperceptible glance before jumping in. "Oh, we're still working on it. The renovation is taking forever. Contractors, am I right?" I bit my tongue. That sunroom, like the rest of the house, had been purchased with my stolen identity. Dinner proceeded with excruciating normalcy. Dad carved the steaks while Mom served generous portions of lasagna. Wine flowed freely. Mark talked about his new project at the architectural firm. The kids chattered about school and soccer. Amanda expertly deflected any questions about their finances or the house, always steering the conversation elsewhere. "Heather, you're quiet tonight," my father observed as we neared the end of the main course. I set down my fork carefully. "Rough week," I said simply. "Anything you want to talk about?" Mom asked, her forehead creasing with concern. Amanda jumped in before I could respond. "Oh, leave her be, Mom. Not everyone needs to process everything out loud like me." She laughed, flipping her hair. "Some people just need to mull things over privately." The irony was almost too much. Here was Amanda, whose crimes would soon become public record, advocating for my privacy. "Actually," I said, meeting her eyes directly, "there is something I need to discuss with all of you." A flicker of unease crossed Amanda's face, quickly replaced by her usual confident smile. "Sounds serious. Let's at least have dessert first. I brought that chocolate mousse cake from Dahlia that you love, Heather." "That can wait," I said firmly. The table fell silent, even the kids sensing the sudden tension, their playful banter ceasing. "Mark, why don't you take the children into the living room?" my mother suggested, her instincts for family drama finely tuned after decades of mediating between siblings. "I think they've been promised some screen time." Once the children were settled with tablets in the other room, I reached into my bag and pulled out the manila folder. My heart pounded so loudly I was certain everyone could hear it. Amanda's eyes fixed on the folder, her smile faltering slightly. "What's that, honey?" my father asked. I took a deep breath. The moment had arrived, and there was no turning back. "This," I said, placing my hand on the folder, "is a police report." The silence around the table deepened. My mother's eyes widened. My father set down his wine glass carefully. Brian, who had been largely quiet throughout dinner, suddenly looked alert, his gaze darting between the folder and Amanda. "A police report?" my mother echoed. "Heather, what happened? Are you all right?" "I'm not all right, Mom," I said, my voice steady despite the storm inside me. "I've been the victim of a crime." I looked directly at Amanda as I slid the folder across the table toward her. Identity theft and fraud, to be specific. Amanda didn't touch the folder. Her face had gone very still, her usual animated expressions frozen. "What are you talking about?" she asked, her voice unnaturally high. "Open it," I said quietly. Brian placed his hand on Amanda's arm. "Maybe we should discuss this privately, Amanda." "There's nothing to discuss," she responded quickly, still not touching the folder. Heather's obviously confused about something. My father, never one for tension or confrontation, tried to lighten the mood. "Is this some kind of joke, girls? Because I'm not following." "It's not a joke, Dad." I reached across the table and flipped open the folder myself, revealing the first page of the police report with its official letterhead and case number. 2 weeks ago, I received a call from Washington Mutual Bank about missed mortgage payments on a $623,000 loan I never took out for a house I've never owned at 4872 Highland Drive. My mother gasped softly. "But that's Amanda and Brian's address." I finished for her. The dream house they've been showing off to everyone for months was purchased through a mortgage fraudulently obtained in my name, along with a home equity line of credit, 3 credit cards, and a personal loan all maxed out, all in default. All eyes turned to Amanda, whose face had drained of color. For several seconds, no one spoke. Then Amanda laughed, a brittle, forced sound. "This is ridiculous. There's obviously been some kind of mistake. A bank error." "The police don't think so," I interrupted. "Neither does the handwriting expert who confirmed the forged signatures. Neither does the IP address evidence showing the mortgage application was submitted from your old condo." Brian abruptly stood. "We should go, Amanda. We don't have to listen to these accusations." My father found his voice, deep and trembling with anger. "Sit down, Brian. Both of you need to explain what the hell is going on." Amanda's demeanor shifted, the deer-in-headlights look vanishing, replaced by cold calculation. "Fine, you want an explanation? We hit a rough patch. Brian's firm collapsed when his partner embezzled funds. My commissions dried up during the market correction. We were about to lose everything we'd worked for. So you decided to steal my identity?" I asked, incredulous. "To saddle me with over $800,000 in debt I knew nothing about?" "It was supposed to be temporary," Amanda said, her voice rising. "Once the market recovered, once Brian's new clients came through, we were going to refinance everything properly." "That's a lie," I said quietly. "The police found your searches about declaring bankruptcy in my name. You were never going to make this right. You were planning to destroy my financial future to save yourselves." My mother began to cry softly. My father's face had turned an alarming shade of red. "Amanda," he said, his voice dangerously quiet, "tell me this isn't true. Tell me you didn't do this to your sister." For a moment, Amanda seemed on the verge of another denial. Then her shoulders slumped. "We were desperate. You don't understand what it's like, having achieved a certain lifestyle, a certain status, and then watching it all slip away. People were counting on us to be successful clients, friends, family, everyone. I was counting on you to be my sister," I said, my voice breaking. "To love me, not betray me." Brian suddenly turned on Amanda. "I told you this would blow up in our faces. I told you we should have found another way." "There was no other way," Amanda shouted back. "Your brilliant investment strategies lost us everything. What was I supposed to do?" "Not commit felony fraud using your sister's identity," Brian retorted. "Do you have any idea what this means?" We could go to prison, Amanda. My parents watched this exchange in stunned silence. Then my father stood, his hands shaking. Get out. Both of you. Get out of my house. Dad, please, Amanda began, her eyes filling with tears, whether genuine or calculated. I couldn't tell anymore. I understand perfectly, he cut her off. You stole from your sister. You lied to all of us. You were willing to destroy Heather's life to maintain your facade. I don't even recognize you anymore. My mother, still crying, looked at Amanda with devastation. How could you do this? After everything we taught you about honesty, about family. What happened to you, Amanda? Nothing happened to me, Mom, Amanda said, a hint of defiance returning. I just refuse to fail. Unlike the rest of this family, I have ambition. I have standards. Do you think I wanted to end up like Heather, living in a tiny apartment with plants as my only companions? The casual cruelty of her words stunned me. Is that what you really think of my life? I asked. That it's some kind of failure because I don't have a mansion or a luxury car? You could have had more, Amanda said bitterly. You're smart enough, but you've always settled for less. Honestly, it's not like you were even using your good credit score for anything important. Brian grabbed her arm. Enough, Amanda. We're leaving now. He turned to me, his expression a mixture of anger and fear. This isn't over, Heather. You have no idea what you've done by filing that report. I know exactly what I've done, I replied steadily. I've protected myself from criminals. That's what you both are, criminals. And now you'll face the consequences. As they gathered their things to leave, my mother called after Amanda. The police, will they arrest you? Amanda paused at the door, her mask slipping for a moment, revealing genuine fear in her eyes. I don't know, Mom. Probably. After they left, the three of us sat in stunned silence. My father poured himself another glass of wine, his hand still shaking. My mother wiped her tears with a napkin, looking suddenly older than her years. I should have seen it, she said finally. All those extravagant purchases, the house, we knew they couldn't afford it. I just thought they were being irresponsible with their money. Not this. None of us saw it, I said, reaching for her hand. I never imagined Amanda capable of something like this, not to a stranger and certainly not to me. My father looked at the police report, still open on the table. What happens now? The district attorney will decide whether to press charges, I explained. Given the evidence, Detective Thompson thinks it's almost certain. Amanda and Brian will likely be arrested within the week. And the debts? My father asked, ever the accountant. The mortgage, the credit cards? I'm working with the banks to clear my name, I said. It's a long process, but the police report helps establish that I'm the victim, not a willing participant. My credit is still destroyed, at least for now. We sat together for hours that night, processing the shock, the betrayal, the uncertain future. My brother Mark returned from putting his children to bed, and we explained everything. His initial disbelief gave way to rage on my behalf. I'll testify against her if needed, he said fiercely. What she did to you is unforgivable. As I drove home that night, I felt hollowed out, as if something essential had been scooped from my chest. I had done what was necessary to protect myself, but there was no satisfaction in it, only grief for the sister I thought I knew and the family that would never be the same. The immediate aftermath unfolded like scenes from a television drama I hadn't signed up for. 3 days after the confrontation, Detective Thompson called to inform me that arrest warrants had been issued for Amanda and Brian. They were taken into custody at their home, my home, according to the fraudulent mortgage, and charged with multiple felonies: identity theft, fraud, forgery, and conspiracy. Their arrests made the local news. Prominent Seattle realtor and financial advisor charged in identity theft scheme. The article noted that the victim was Amanda's sister, though thankfully, my name was withheld. Still, anyone who knew our family could connect the dots. My phone buzzed constantly with messages from concerned friends, distant relatives, and even former classmates who'd pieced it together. How are you holding up? Did you know what they were doing? Are they going to prison? I turned my phone off, unable to face the well-meaning but intrusive questions. My parents retreated into a shell of shock and humiliation. Dad stopped attending his weekly golf games, unable to face friends who had undoubtedly seen the news. Mom took a leave of absence from teaching, citing health issues. Their social circle, built over decades in the same community, suddenly felt threatening rather than supportive. "Everyone must be talking about us," Mom said during one of my visits, her hair unstyled, her face bare of makeup, a stark contrast to her usual put-together appearance. Wondering where we went wrong with Amanda. "You didn't go wrong," I assured her, though part of me wondered the same thing. Had there been signs of Amanda's moral flexibility that we'd all missed or excused? Small dishonesties that had escalated when the stakes got higher? "Your father can't sleep," she continued. "He keeps saying he should have taught her better values, as if this is his fault somehow." The pressure from my family to drop the charges began subtly at first, then grew more insistent as Amanda's situation became clearer. She and Brian had been released on bail, but were required to surrender their passports. Their assets were frozen, including the house, which the bank was now moving to reclaim. "She made a terrible mistake," my mother pleaded over the phone one evening, "but she's still your sister, still our daughter. Couldn't you ask the district attorney to reduce the charges? Maybe some kind of probation instead of prison." "Mom, she stole my identity," I said, struggling to keep my voice calm. "She planned to declare bankruptcy in my name. Do you understand what that would have done to me? I wouldn't have been able to rent an apartment, get a car loan, maybe even keep my job if it required a security clearance. She was willing to destroy my life." "I know, honey, what she did was inexcusable," Mom said, her voice breaking. "But she has 2 young children. Think about your niece and nephew growing up without their mother." That was the hardest part. Harper and Ethan, 5 and 7 years old, were innocent in all this. I adored those children, had babysat them countless times, brought them special treats from my travels. Now they might lose their parents to incarceration because of my police report. My resolve wavered. Maybe I could talk to the DA about a plea deal, a way for Amanda to make restitution without serving time. It was Stephanie who helped me regain my perspective during a much-needed night out at a bar far from my usual haunts. "Listen to me," she said, setting down her vodka tonic with a decisive thud. "Amanda chose to commit multiple felonies. Amanda chose to victimize her own sister. Amanda chose to put her children at risk by engaging in criminal behavior. None of that is on you. The consequences are hers to bear, not yours to ameliorate." "But my parents," I began. "Your parents are doing what parents do, trying to protect their child," she interrupted. "But they're protecting the wrong child in this scenario. You're the victim here, Heather. Don't let them make you feel guilty for standing up for yourself." She was right. When I met with the district attorney the following week, I made it clear I wasn't interested in dropping or reducing the charges. "Miss Wilson, I want to commend your resolve," said Prosecutor Natalie Chin. "Many identity theft cases involving family members never make it to court because victims withdraw under family pressure. But these crimes have real consequences and they merit real punishment." The legal proceedings moved forward with agonizing slowness, preliminary hearings, motions filed by expensive defense attorneys, continuances, and delays. Through it all, I had to keep living my life, working my shifts, paying my bills, and attempting to repair my shattered credit. I'll never forget the day Amanda and Brian finally accepted a plea deal, 9 months after that fateful family dinner. I sat in the courtroom, watching as my sister, thinner now, her designer clothes replaced by a modest navy suit, stood before the judge. "Amanda Parker, you have pleaded guilty to 1 count of identity theft, 1 count of fraud, and 1 count of conspiracy," the judge stated. "Before I pronounce sentence, do you wish to make a statement?" Amanda turned slightly, her eyes finding mine in the gallery. For a moment, I saw a flicker of the sister I'd grown up with, vulnerable, human, flawed. "I want to apologize to my sister," she said, her voice steady but subdued. "What I did was unforgivable. I betrayed your trust in the worst possible way, and I'll regret it for the rest of my life. I was selfish, desperate, and terrified of failure, but that's no excuse for hurting the person who has always supported me and believed in me. I'm so sorry, Heather." The judge sentenced Amanda to 18 months in federal prison, with Brian receiving 12 months. Both would serve 3 years of supervised release afterward and were ordered to pay full restitution, though how they would manage that without their careers remained unclear. As Amanda was led away, our eyes met one final time. There was so much unsaid between us, so much damage that might never be repaired. I didn't know if I could ever forgive her, but in that moment, I acknowledged the complexity of my feelings, the anger and betrayal intertwined with memories of a shared childhood, of a love that had been real despite everything that followed. The weeks following the sentencing were a blur of practical matters. The bank foreclosed on the house, selling it at auction for less than the mortgage amount. I worked tirelessly with credit agencies to remove the fraudulent accounts from my record, a frustratingly slow process that required countless phone calls, letters, and documentation. My relationship with my parents remained strained. They visited Amanda regularly in the minimum security facility where she was serving her time, but rarely mentioned these visits to me. We tried to maintain some semblance of family connection, but our conversations were superficial, carefully avoiding the elephant in the room. Thanksgiving came and went, the first in my memory without a full family gathering. My parents invited me, but I declined, spending the holiday with Stephanie's family instead. Christmas was equally fractured. I dropped gifts for my parents at their home, but didn't stay for dinner. The traditions that had anchored our family for decades had been shattered along with our trust. The day the bank finally removed the fraudulent mortgage from my credit report felt like emerging from a long, dark tunnel. My credit score was slowly recovering, though financial experts warned it might take years to fully restore. I'd moved to a new apartment, wanting a fresh start in a place untainted by memories of betrayal. It was smaller than my previous one, but in a building with better security, including a locked mailbox only I could access. The paranoia lingered, a constant companion I was learning to manage rather than eliminate. My weekly therapy sessions with Dr. Elaine Winters became a cornerstone of my recovery. Initially reluctant to share my story with yet another stranger, I found unexpected relief in having a neutral space to process my complicated emotions without judgment. Family betrayal creates a unique kind of trauma, Dr. Winters explained during one of our early sessions. The people we expect to protect us become the source of harm. It fundamentally challenges our ability to trust. Will I ever trust anyone again? I asked, only half joking. You'll trust differently, she replied. More carefully, more intentionally. That's not necessarily a bad thing. She was right. I'd become more cautious about sharing personal information, more vigilant about reviewing financial statements, more selective about who I allowed into my inner circle. But I hadn't withdrawn from life entirely, which had been my fear in those dark early days. My relationship with my parents was slowly healing, though it would never return to what it had been. The strain of divided loyalties, their instinct to support Amanda despite her crimes, my need for validation as the victim, created an underlying tension that colored our interactions. But we were trying, all of us. Sunday dinners resumed, though less frequently and with a careful avoidance of certain topics. Your father and I visited Amanda yesterday, my mother mentioned during one such dinner, watching my face carefully for a reaction. How is she? I asked, surprised by my own curiosity. Managing, Mom said. She's teaching an ESL class to other inmates. She asked about you. I nodded, but offered no response. I wasn't ready to visit Amanda, to face her across a prison table and hear more apologies that couldn't undo what she'd done. Maybe someday, but not yet. My father, who had been mostly silent on the subject of Amanda for months, suddenly spoke up. She's different in there. Humbled, I think. I think she's finally understanding the magnitude of what she did to you. It was the first time he had so clearly acknowledged me as the victim rather than focusing on Amanda's suffering. The validation, though long overdue, meant more than I could express. Thank you for saying that, Dad, I said quietly. The most unexpected support came from extended family who had seemed distant or judgmental in the immediate aftermath of the scandal. My cousin Rachel, with whom I'd never been particularly close, reached out with a surprising revelation. I never told anyone in the family, she confided over coffee, but my college roommate stole my identity, opened credit cards, and ran up thousands in debt. I know something about what you've been through. What did you do? I asked. Press charges, just like you, she said. Lost friends who thought I was overreacting. Never regretted it for a minute. Finding this community of understanding, other identity theft victims who truly comprehended the violation I'd experienced, became an important part of my healing. I joined an online support group and eventually began attending in-person meetings of a financial crime survivors network. There, I met people from all walks of life whose stories echoed aspects of mine: the shock of discovery, the painstaking process of clearing their names, the broken relationships with those who couldn't understand why they wouldn't just forgive and move on. In their company, I didn't have to explain or justify my feelings; they already knew. Through this network, I connected with a nonprofit organization dedicated to helping identity theft victims navigate the complex recovery process. After benefiting from their resources, I began volunteering, using my own experience to guide others through the labyrinth of credit bureaus, law enforcement, and financial institutions. You have a gift for this, Margot, the organization's director, told me after observing one of my counseling sessions with a newly identified victim. You're compassionate without sugarcoating the reality of what they're facing. This work gave purpose to my pain, transforming a devastating personal experience into knowledge that could help others. I couldn't undo what Amanda had done, but I could use it to make someone else's journey a little less lonely, a little more navigable. Moving to my new apartment had been a practical necessity. The lease on my old place had ended, and my budget was strained by legal fees and credit counseling costs. But it became a symbolic fresh start as well. I filled it with plants, as always, but also with new furniture that held no memories of my pre-betrayal life. I installed a small home office with a locking file cabinet for important documents, not because I expected another family member to steal my identity, but because the experience had taught me the value of prudent protection. When Amanda had been incarcerated for nearly a year, I received a letter that stood out from her previous attempts at communication. Unlike her earlier apologies, which had focused on her remorse and suffering, this one acknowledged the specific harms she had caused me. I've been working with a therapist here, she wrote. She's helping me understand that true accountability means recognizing not just that I did something wrong, but exactly how my actions hurt you. I stole more than your identity, Heather. I stole your sense of security, your trust in family, your belief in my love for you. I can't undo that harm, but I want you to know that I see it clearly now. I'm not asking for forgiveness. I'm not even asking for a response. I just want you to know that I understand what I destroyed, and I will live with that knowledge for the rest of my life. I didn't respond immediately, but I kept the letter, rereading it periodically as I processed my feelings. The acknowledgement of specific harms felt different from her earlier blanket apologies, more genuine, more complete, more aware. Around this time, I made a decision that surprised even me. Using some of the restitution money that had finally begun arriving from Amanda and Brian's seized assets, I put a deposit on a small house with a generous yard, perfect for an expanded garden. The irony wasn't lost on me. My sister's crime had ultimately led to me achieving the home ownership she had fraudulently claimed in my name. The day I signed the legitimate mortgage papers, a moment that should have been purely joyful, I experienced an unexpected wave of emotion. Sitting in the loan officer's office, reviewing documents remarkably similar to those that had been forged in my name, I felt a strange closing of a circle. "Is everything all right, Miss Wilson?" the loan officer asked, noticing my hesitation. "Yes," I said, signing my actual name to a loan I had chosen for a house I could afford. "Everything is fine." Better than fine, actually. Taking ownership of my new home became a powerful act of reclamation. I painted the walls colors I loved, planted a vegetable garden in the backyard, and invited friends for a housewarming party, my first real celebration since before the identity theft discovery. Stephanie brought champagne and a doormat that read, "Not today, identity thieves," dark humor that made me laugh despite myself. My parents came too, bringing a houseplant and awkward good wishes. They were trying, in their way, to support this new chapter while still maintaining their relationship with Amanda. "It's a lovely home, Heather," my mother said, hugging me tightly. "We're so proud of you." "For buying a house?" I asked, half smiling. "For everything," my father clarified. for how you've handled all of this with dignity and strength. It wasn't complete healing, that would take years more, if it ever fully arrived, but it was acknowledgement, and that mattered. 2 weeks after my housewarming, I did something I'd been considering for months. I drove to the Federal Correctional Institution where Amanda was serving her sentence and added my name to her visitors list. I wasn't ready to see her yet, but I wanted the option available when and if that day came. As I continue rebuilding my life, I've come to understand that healing isn't a destination but a process. Some days, I feel strong and forward-looking, ready to embrace the future. Others, the betrayal feels fresh and raw, as if it happened yesterday. I've learned to accept both realities as part of my journey. What happened between my sister and me is a story with no neat ending, no perfect resolution. Family bonds, once broken by betrayal, can never be fully restored to their original form. But they can transform into something new, something more honest, perhaps, with clearly established boundaries and carefully rebuilt trust. I don't know if Amanda and I will ever reclaim anything resembling our former closeness. I don't know if I'll ever fully trust her again. But I know that I've survived the worst betrayal I could imagine, and I've emerged stronger, wiser, and more self-reliant than before. If there's a lesson in all of this, it's that trust is a precious resource, one to be given carefully, guarded appropriately, and withdrawn when necessary for self-protection. Love and trust aren't the same thing, a distinction I never fully understood until now. I can love my sister while acknowledging that she violated my trust in ways that may never be fully repaired. This experience has taught me that family loyalty has limits and should have limits. Standing up for yourself, even against those you love, isn't selfish, it's necessary. Forgiveness, if it comes, must follow accountability, not replace it. I'm still writing my story, still finding my way forward, but I know this much. I refuse to be a victim in silence. I refuse to sacrifice my financial future to protect someone who didn't protect me. I refuse to accept betrayal as the price of family peace. And in those refusals, I've found my strength. What about you? Have you ever experienced betrayal from someone you trusted completely? How did you handle it, and what boundaries did you establish afterward? I'd love to hear your stories in the comments below. If this account has helped you feel less alone in your own experience of family betrayal, please consider giving it a like and subscribing for more real-life stories of resilience and recovery. Share this with someone who might be struggling with similar issues sometimes. Knowing others have walked the same difficult path can make all the difference. Thank you for listening to my story, and remember, protecting yourself isn't selfish. It's necessary for survival and eventual healing.